Job, a man who, when life handed him lemons, he came to look up and found out that it had taken his whole lemon tree. So you think you've had a bad day. Folks, have you ever had one of those days where nothing goes right? I'm talking about the kind of day where you stub your toe, spill your coffee in front of your friends, realize you're wearing two different types of shoes right before you go into a meeting with the biggest boss you've met in years. Well, if you think that's bad, let me introduce you to my good buddy Job. He had a bad day that made yours look like a vacation in Hawaii. First, a little background. I mean, this guy Job, his life got so bad, his email address would have been something at lifehatesme.com. And his bio would read, "Could I please get a break, Lord? Seriously, anything?" So let's meet Job, the world's most unfortunate man. And again, first a little backdrop. Job is not a historical character so far as we know. This is a story. This is a true story that never happened. But yet it did. Job was a good guy. He was a really good guy. He was well thought of by everyone, had a great life. He was just, God looked upon him fondly. He was blameless and upright, God said, in his sight. He feared God. He shunned evil. He was the kind of guy that makes you look in the mirror and go, "Hey, I'm a sinner. And I ate Job's last piece of pizza." I mean, he is that good of a person. He was the person that would have said, "Good, I would have offered it to you anyway." Job's life took a turn for the worse, though. A really bad turn. A really unfair turn. Imagine waking up one day and realizing you've lost everything. Your kids, your wealth, your livestock, or your stock. All of it, poof, gone. To the four winds. And let's not forget the cherry on top, your health. Job's entire body, within a matter of a few days, became completely covered in boils, to the point where he was impossible to look at by his own spouse, scraping himself with broken pottery, like a dry skin treatment gone horribly wrong, to try to get rid of the boils. I mean, at that point, you got to wonder, what did I do to tick off God? What did I do to tick off the entire universe? Did he accidentally step on an ant colony and get cursed by the king of the ants? Was there some fine print in his life contract that said, "Warning, may contain trials and tribulations"? Again, that's the first point toward us. No matter how good you are, no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work, life will hand you tribulations. And then here comes Job's friends. Talk about the worst support group ever. Enter Job's friends, the original Blame the Victim committee. These guys show up. They take one look at Job and go, "Wow, Job, look at you. What has happened? You must have really messed up. I mean, nobody gets this kind of punishment for being a saint. What was it? Was it drinking, drugs, gambling, overeating, fornicating? What have you been doing? What did you do to be cursed by God?" These guys were supposed to be his friends, but immediately they played devil's advocate and started reading into it that certainly he must have done something wrong, because after all, nothing like that has ever happened to any of them or any of their friends. It's like when you tell somebody you're having a bad day and instead of sympathy, you get hit with, "Well, you know everything happens for a reason." I despise that. Everything does happen for a reason, as a causal event. But God is not controlling every single thing that's going on in your life. He has given you a lot of control. You're going, thanks, Captain Obvious, for telling me how bad everything was. It totally makes my car breaking down, my dog running away, and the IRS auditing me all the better. I mean, I just feel so much better now after my friends have consoled me. And it does happen that way. When things go wrong, your friends immediately ask themselves, well, what is he doing? Which I suppose is a natural response. But when his friends came to console him, all they did was ask questions, probing questions, like he had done something to deserve the misfortune that has happened to him. Surely there must be an answer. These guys are like the guys that come over when you're sick, eat all your snacks, and tell you that it's probably because you didn't wash your hands. Friends like these, who needs enemies? And then there's Job's wife. Poor lady. She's had enough. Now, after all his friends have pulled this, she comes in and says, curse God and die. Because everything that he does turns to, you know what? Not one thing has went right. And after all, it must be his fault. The spouse walking in when you're low. It is kind of like your spouse walking in when you're at your very lowest and going, you know what? Just give up already. We're out of Advil and I'm out of patience. You're wrong. Obviously, you must have done something. So here's a man that was righteous before God, had all of his friends turn on him, had his wife get after him, tell him that he must be doing something wrong, and tell him that just go curse your God and die and get out of my life. Let's go back to the beginning of Job and just read for a second. In the very beginning of Job, something you must know. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you been from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming through the earth and going back and forth in it." And then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil," God said to Satan. "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Satan replied. "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well, then. Everything he has is in your hands, but on the man yourself do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. And one day Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking at the oldest brother's house. A messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabaeans attacked and carried them off. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." And that was just the beginning. Satan made a bet with God. God took him up on his bet, and here it goes. And it was just one thing after another, after another, after another. That all went wrong at once. It wasn't over a period of time. Everything went wrong. Everything was taken from him. If he was a farmer, all of his equipment was sold off. His servants were all gone. He was no longer well thought of. He was held in contempt by his friends. He was questioned cruelly by his wife, but can you blame her? She's watching her husband go through all this, and she's thinking, how much worse can this get? A man walking through a disaster zone. I mean, she's ready to call it quits. She's ready to just pack up and move to a desert island away from Job and having everything to do with him, because he is obviously walking under a perpetual dark cloud. He must be doing something wrong. So we get to Job's complaint. A pity party with a little bit of a side of a sarcasm here. Finally, Job has had enough. And he starts, for the better word, whining. He says, well, he was expressing his feelings, we'll say that. Job's all like, well, why me, God? What did I do to deserve this? Did I miss a tithe? Did I not volunteer enough to go to church? Or synagogue? Or did I eat a bacon sandwich? Or whatever non-kosher thing that I must have done? God answers out of a whirlwind. Because when God answers, it's never a gentle breeze. If you've caused him to answer you, you'll know. He's like, where were you when I laid down the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. And Job's sitting there and thinking, no, I wasn't. You got me there. I was nowhere to be found. He wasn't exactly on the construction crew when God was making plans for all this. So it's like when you're complaining to your parents as a kid, and they hit you with, I brought you in and I can take you out. And suddenly you're rethinking the whole complaint about your bedtime complaint. In the end, Job is restored, but still bald. His body did repair. But the thing is, after all that whining and complaining, woe is me, God blessed Job with double of everything he lost. New kids, new wealth, new livestock. It's like an ancient Oprah showed up and gave everybody a camel of their very own. Let's go to Job 42, I believe it is, real quick. After God gets done basically laying it out, how Job is completely out of line making all these complaints because he wasn't there for any of these things, and he can't turn around and blame God for everything. After all, you're speaking pretty big for your pants is kind of what he's talking. You're pretty big for your britches talking to me like that. God kind of chewed him out good. And he said, I know that you can do all things, Lord. No plan of yours can be thwarted. You asked, who is and what is the counsel that obscures my counsel without knowledge? In other words, he's talking to God without knowing a thing about what he's talking about. He's mad. Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. You said, listen now, and I will speak. I will question you, and you shall answer me. But my ears had not heard of you, but my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself. I repent in dust and ashes. And he said, and basically, what Job was saying is, I'm sorry, I was mistaken. And God, repeated down to him. He said, I am angry with you. After the Lord had said these things to Job, now then he turned to Job's friends, to Eliphaz and Temanite. He said, I am angry with you and your two friends, because you have not spoken of me what is right, and my servant Job has. See, God admits, yes, you spoke of me correctly. This was a cruel experiment, but one that I wanted to see and was willing to walk away and was willing to walk through and finish. So now take 7 bulls and 7 rams and go to my servant Job and sacrifice an offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer and not only deal with you according to your folly. So in other words, He dealt with them for their folly. Who knows how that might have been. But he gave Job back everything that he lost many times. And that doesn't mean it's always going to happen to you. What is the takeaway? Life can stink. It really can, to high heaven. It can stink like a room full of teenagers after a gym class. There you are. But if Job can survive losing everything, complaining to God, and dealing with those so-called friends of his, then maybe you can survive that bad day or week or even month or even year. And who knows, maybe for your allegiance and your prayers, God will bless you. Job got camels, maybe you'll get something else. It's hard to know, but do your very best in life that as things are handed to you, to keep laughing, because there's always going to be the next thing. I promise you. So the next time life gives you lemons and steals your lemon tree, remember Job. Just laugh it off. Keep the faith. Don't forget that sometimes it's all going to happen to you. And sometimes the best prayer we can pray is, Lord, please let me see the humor in all of this, because right now I'm about to lose it. Everything, Lord, and I mean everything, is going wrong. God has got you, and God has got this. So even on your worst days, remember He is with you. Amen.